The NRL season has been suspended indefinitely. We don't know when it will come back. We don't know if it will come back for the year. But should the season resume, it's more likely that it would start around August to September, which would result in a reduction of games for the season. Right now, some teams play each other twice and others once. I think there's about 9 double-ups and 6 single matches per team. But if the season were to be reduced, you'd have to reduce the amount of games. And the best way to do that is to create a fixture, a 15-round season fixture where every team plays each other once, which would make up a fair ladder. And that's what I, Kevin, have produced today. A 15-round fixture for the NRL where every team plays each other once. Now, the fixture is designed for the worst possible case scenario, and that is for the season to start in October, which, yes, I know the NRL said that if it doesn't start by September, they'll abort the season, but I was able to work out a fixture where you could start in October and still play the grand final on the 27th of December before the end of the year. That would be a 9-weekend normal season with 4 midweek rounds jammed in between that. So basically 13 rounds in 9 weeks, because remember that 2 rounds were played back in March. Meanwhile, you also play the 4 finals in December. So that's the worst possible case scenario for the NRL. Now, for those 4 midweek rounds that I produced, that could be expanded into a weekend slot if it starts in September or even August. So it could be a once a weekend thing, really. I just condensed the rounds in for the worst possible case scenario. One of the biggest aims that I tried to do while creating the fixture was to minimize the amount of travel. So that meant that there would be some teams that would play consecutive games in Queensland, so they'd stay up at Queensland and play 2 consecutive games, and probably the Broncos, for example, might play like 3 or 4 consecutive games in Sydney. That was to try and minimize the travel throughout the season. It was a little bit hard to do with Melbourne and Canberra, but I tried to work around it. I think I had 6 matches in Melbourne in succession, I think, from what I remember. But yeah, so obviously I try to minimize the amount of travel that each team does. Other things to note out that you wouldn't usually see in an NRL fixture is that Saturday night matches I've got to be televised on Channel 9, as well as every match on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday. So basically there's either 3 or 4 matches a week. Now that is so Channel 9 loses as little amount of games as possible on their station. I know they'll lose games, but trying to minimize that, so that's why I've got Saturday night games televised on Channel 9. Now, there's a few home ground situations which I'm not entirely sure about, the most notable being what's going on with ANZ Stadium. It was supposed to be demolished following that round 14 Rabbitohs v Bulldogs match and the State of Origin number 3, but they're now saying that it might not be demolished due to COVID-19 and that it will stay standing. So what's going on? Will they play there late in the season if it is still standing? I don't know, so that's why I had Canterbury scheduled all their home matches at Bankwest Stadium and South Sydney Rabbitohs at Jubilee Oval, because I didn't want to take any risks there with ANZ Stadium. So, and if it is up and standing and we use that fixture, I guess they could just easily relocate it back to ANZ Stadium. Won't be a big issue. The other thing is, I don't think the SCG is a suitable place for the Sydney Roosters to play their home games, so I basically did their home games at Leichhardt Oval, which means that West Tigers, as a result, played the majority of their games at Campbellton Oval, with about 2 or 3 at Leichhardt Oval. The same goes for St George Illawarra, because South Sydney and Cronulla would now be playing at Jubilee Oval, so I think a lot of the matches for the Dragons would be played at WIN Stadium, according to my fixture, with a couple at Jubilee Oval. The other big talking point is what's going on between travel between Australia and New Zealand. Even if the Australian state borders reopen, which would allow the NRL to continue playing, the New Zealand borders might possibly still be closed, which means what happens to the New Zealand Warriors? Do you kick them out of the competition, or do you field a different playing roster in the Warriors and have them play their games at Cbus Super Stadium like they were going to do? And that's what I put in my fixture. I retained the 16-team system, and I had New Zealand Warriors to play all their games at Gold Coast home ground, Cbus Super Stadium. Although during the slideshow that I'm about to play, I did put a little subscript if the match was played at Mount Smart Stadium, what the starting time would be. Anyway, so I'm going to play the fixture slideshow. Now, note that I will have rounds 1 and 2 in there, the 2 rounds that were already played, just to remind you guys who already played each other back in round 1 and 2 and where they played. So, yeah, the first 2 rounds were the 2 rounds that were already completed, and then from the third slideshow onwards, it's my fixture. So anyway, sit back and enjoy the fixture proposal that I'm about to show you. And then after the normal season finishes, we get to the finals. Now, I know there's talk about the wild card rounds and extending the finals so more teams can participate. I don't like that. I think it should just be 8 teams make the finals, because let's face it, 16 teams, half make the finals, half don't. I think that seems fair. Anyway, so I'm going to retain the 4-round final series. And I think it should be on each of the 4 weekends, so I don't have them cramped into weekdays or anything. So the whole finals would be played through December in the worst case scenario. If you don't remember what the NRL final system is, it's up on the board right now. An example of it anyway. And yeah, I was kind of basing the matches up based on the current NRL ladder after round 2. So that explains why Newcastle was second. Yeah. So that's an example of how it would look like. And that would spread across the 4 weeks of December in the worst case scenario. The grand final would be played at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday the 27th of December at the very latest. I think they said 20th of December, but I think if you delay it one more week, I don't think it'll make too much of a big difference. But there will be massive ramifications on 2021, no matter what happens, how long the season gets pushed out until. So yeah, it's going to be really hectic times, not just for this season, but potentially 2021, and it might even affect 2022. And I'm just talking about the schedule here. There's a lot of things that will massively affect the AFL, NRL, A-League, and all the other sporting landscape for the years to come. So anyway, I hope you like this video of me making another fixture. I did one for the A-League, I've done one for the NRL, now I've got to do one for the AFL. Oh crap, that's going to be an even tougher task. Because at least the NRL, you've got an even 16-team competition, and there's 10 teams based in New South Wales and 4 in Queensland, so there's only 2. Well, that's assuming New Zealand are stuck in Gold Coast. But, and there's only Melbourne and Canberra apart from that. The AFL, it's going to be even harder. So, well, whatever, I've done it before. I can do it again. Anyway, I hope you like this video. Please subscribe. Please give it a thumbs up. Comment what you thought of the fixture down below. And check out some of my other videos. And I'll see you next time on the show. Goodbye.